Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show, starting a new week of NBA action. Happy Monday. Got a lot to dive into today. As always, I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, over on Instagram at Trevor Lane NBA, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, how are you doing? Ready to start a new week? Are you coming into it with some gusto, or are we dragging today?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I had a productive weekend, productive morning already as we're taping Monday afternoon, and everything's good. We're 1 month from today is the trade deadline, so
That's right.
we're getting down to it. We've got some trade rumors heating up that we're going to get into here in a little bit. So yeah, everything's good.
'Tis the season. It's an exciting time, and let's dive into it. Let's start. I guess let's get some of the bad news out of the way first here. Kevin Durant was revealed this morning to have suffered an MCL injury. He's going to be reevaluated in a couple of weeks, but this could cost him multiple weeks here at least. There is some optimism out there that's not going to be like a month-long thing, but nonetheless, this is a tough blow for a Nets team that's been red hot. They've been really shooting up the Eastern Conference, currently the 2 seed. Tough timing. I checked ahead on their schedule. They do have, some winnable matchups. I believe they have the Spurs, they have OKC, even without KD. So maybe that's a positive for them, but still also have some tough ones. For example, the big showdown with your Boston Celtics. No Kevin Durant for that one, obviously.
Yeah, it's a little bit better for the Nets this time around. You've got Kyrie fully there. You can get with him on the court and feel good about that. But yeah, it's still a huge loss. I mean, this guy is arguably, in the MVP mix. He's been one of the best players in the league this season. And I was watching live when it happened. Didn't look horrible, but also didn't look great. He tried to stay in for a couple plays and then just couldn't do it, couldn't really move right, and then he came off the floor. In that same game against Miami, Tyler Hero got hurt right on the very last play of the game, but he said he was fine. Just he tweaked something as he slipped on a wet spot on the floor, and he said he was okay. But yeah, just a tough blow for the Nets with KD. So they're going to have to kind of figure it out to get through it here over the next at least 2 weeks. We know for sure. The pup is chiming in here. So yeah, at least the next 2 weeks for sure. We know he's out, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. The Nets are going to have to try to get by without him. Not easy, but again, currently, when we'll see where they're at when Kevin Durant comes back. But as of right now, the Nets are sitting as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, 1 game back of the 1 seed, which is the Boston Celtics. The Nets' next game, so they've got some time off here, isn't coming up until the 12th, and that'll be against your Celtics. And obviously, no Kevin Durant for that matchup. So tough blow for them.
Yeah, they're just in to give a little more.
Uh-huh.
I know they're a game behind Boston, but they're a game and a half up on both Milwaukee and Cleveland, two and a half up on Philadelphia. So if this stretches into a month, we could come back with the Nets, who I think they've won 18 of their last 20 games. We could come back to them, being down in the 4th, 5th place range, potentially if they can't really, kind of stay at this level, just because we expect Milwaukee, Cleveland, Philly to keep winning here. Eventually, the Bucks are going to turn it around. They're going through it a little bit right now, but yeah, definitely some standings watch going on here with the Nets for sure.
Particularly a game to keep an eye on. Wednesday, the 25th, the Nets play the 76ers, assuming Kevin Durant is not back for that. That could be a difference maker in terms of the Eastern Conference standings as well, after the Nets get back from a West Coast swing. So, all right, let's move on. Some positive news. Just got this. Anthony Davis is going to start ramping up when the Lakers return from Denver, which is where they are at this evening. Anthony Davis will start ramping up for a return. He's going to do some aquatic activities, some anti-gravity stuff and things like that. That's going to take the weight off of his foot as it heals.
So he's turning into a superhero is what I'm hearing. Aquatic activities, anti-gravity.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go. Put him in the Iron Man suit.
He's going to be communicating with the fish. He's going to get sharks and things like that on his side. And then he's going to go flying through the air using the anti-gravity part. And yeah, then off we go. We can take another step towards forming the Avengers or the Justice League, if you will. But he's going to start ramping up. And the Lakers, according to Dave McMenamin, are optimistic that once he starts ramping up, he'll be back in a couple of weeks, and he'll be back in the lineup. So that could put him back somewhere around that, January 24th, 25th, somewhere in that range. Perhaps back for the matchup on the road to start the road trip against your Celtics. We'll see where that ultimately lands in. But good news for a player that the Lakers certainly need back as soon as possible.
Yeah, big time. I think a couple people saw this report and thought he was ramping up to a return, like to return this week.
Right.
And it's this week he's starting ramping up to a return. So yeah, probably my guess is probably a week, 10 days, it'll take him to get ready. And that's starting at some point later this week. So probably, yeah, sometime within the next 2 weeks is when I would assume we'll see him play. And that's huge. I mean, more than kept their head above water while he's been out. They're playing really well, 5 in a row. They're right in that mix now. Unfortunately for the Lakers, the Timberwolves started winning at basically the exact same time, but Portland's on a little bit of a slide. Utah's on a major slide over their last 10 to 20 games or so. They've really kind of dropped into where I think we all thought they might be at the beginning of the year. But then you got a couple other teams like Phoenix is not playing very well. They've lost 6 straight. They're under 500. So it's right there for the Lakers to be in the mix for the stretch run.
How crazy is the West right now when you look at the standings and you see that the Lakers are the 11th seed and somehow they are 1 game back of the 6th seed.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah, in only 2 games back of the 5th seed.
Yep.
So yeah, it's super compact. Let me ask you this question. I get asked this question on a radio show this week. Top of the East or top of the West? What do you think is better?
I'm gonna say top of the East. I think
that's where I was too.
Yeah,
I think the depth of the West is better.
Correct.
Because it's really 1 through 10, 11.
And the records show that.
Yeah, but I think top of the East, I think Boston, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, those might maybe be the 3 best teams in the league.
Yeah, I think when you look at the West, one of the things you have to factor in is with the depth of the West, they're it kind of cannibalizes itself because you don't get, if you're in the East, you get Detroit, you get the Hornets, you get the Magic, you get the Wizards aren't playing well. The Hawks haven't been playing great lately. The Raptors not been playing well. You get more winnable games on your schedule when you're playing in the East right now. But I'm in agreement. I think the top of the East still, even with that factored in, has just been playing at a smidge higher level than anybody that we've seen in the Western Conference. I mean, you look in the West, and I don't think there's Denver and the Grizzlies are tied for the 1 seed right now. Essentially, they have the exact same record. And I don't think anybody's looking at either of those teams and saying, oh, that's a dominant championship level team that nobody can contend with. They're very good teams, and it wouldn't shock me if either of them came out of the West, but they're not so good that anybody's saying clearly that's the best team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're on the same page with that. I think it's really crazy that this year we may not see a team win 60 games, and there's a good chance we may not see a team lose 60. Losing 60 is probably a little more likely because I think we're going to see a handful of teams really tank off here to make sure they're getting that bottom 3 in those flattened lottery odds to make sure that's where they land that down the stretch. But yeah, it's this has been just one of those years where it is as wide open as I can remember it. Even in the last couple of years when it felt kind of wide open, you still felt like Milwaukee and Phoenix a couple years ago, Phoenix last year going into the playoffs. Golden State felt like they were going to have some say. Boston, Milwaukee, Miami. This year, it just feels like, you could still at this point get 8-10 teams and be like, yeah, I could see it, as long as health and the right matchups and all that stuff through the postseason, which should make for a really fun trade deadline and then fun, stretch run of the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely should. We also got a bit from Dave McMenamin on Brian Windhorst's podcast, The Hoop Collective, reiterated that the Lakers are indeed open to moving their first-round picks in the right deal. Now, you can question what is the right deal, certainly, but there was a little bit of that kind of buzz out there that, well, the Lakers just aren't going to move their picks, period. I wonder if that is more a response to the market where every team that has any player that's remotely available is demanding the world for them right now because it is a seller's market at the moment. If it's a little bit of well, we don't want to trade any picks anyway right now. So, if it's a little bit of a pushback there, and now McMenamin is kind of confirming like, hey, yeah, they'll do it, but it's got to be the right move for them. I wonder if that's more market related than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's also the time of year where there's smoke screens and lying
Mm-hmm.
going on everywhere, right? Like no one is being completely truthful. There was a report that the Raptors are super active, and that was followed by another report of Toronto's not really looking to do anything big. And it's like, all right, well, so somebody got bad intel somewhere and on that, and we'll ultimately see. But yeah, I think as we've said all along, you got to be super smart if you're the Lakers with being willing to trade, either one of these picks. We don't need to repeat a ton of it just because you just got to be smart and make sure it really is not only the right move for the rest of this season, but is it going to be what you're willing to sacrifice having cap space for next summer? That's what's really becomes important.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to figure out what's the trade-off, what's the opportunity cost with whatever it is that they do or don't do out there on the market, and again, they know they have to get it right after the Russell Westbrook trade. He's been playing better. There's no question, and credit to him coming off the bench and all of that. But you're still not getting $47 million out of him. It's still in production. It's still one of the worst trades that we've seen in terms of derailing a franchise. They know they have to get this next one right. Whatever it is, they've got to get it right.
Yeah, and they absolutely under no circumstances can you acquire another player who's under 6'4". Like that's just I mean, the comedy reasons and content reasons, I think it would be hilarious, but you gotta add a little bit more wing size, on the roster.
I thought that was like a prerequisite that they're only allowed to target guys who are under 6'4". It's a guards league, Keith. According to Rob,
you had to be over 34, and then now this year
That's
you have
right.
to be under 6'4". So yeah, it's let's maybe somebody who's 25 and 6'7". I'm not naming names. I don't know. So somebody can plug those parameters in the Basketball Reference and find the right player. But yeah, it just kind of makes me laugh because I've seen some people saying, well, maybe they could do this, maybe could do that. I even saw somebody randomly threw out there, could they make a run at Chris Paul if the Suns continue to struggle? And I'm like, I mean, I guess, but what does that fit?
Why?
Like that's I'm not sure that's the way I'd be going, but yeah, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's the opposite of the signs at Disneyland. You must be this tall to ride
Yeah,
this
right.
ride. You must be under this tall to play for this team.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's like what it is to go on the IKEA playground, I think.
You mentioned the Raptors a moment ago. So we do have that report out there. The Raptors are unlikely to do a major sell-off. They have been sliding in the standings right now, sitting as the 12 seed in the Eastern Conference. They are 4-6 in their last 10. Did win their last game, but still, this is a team that is certainly underperforming compared to what the hope was coming into the season. Is this posturing, or do you buy this that the Raptors probably will not truly blow this up?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's Masai Ujiri, so I think he will take a big swing if there's one to be taken, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that big swing to be taken is. I don't think he's just going to say, all right, let's start trading everybody just to trade them, but I do think he'll be active. And if it's not now, it'll be into the summertime. They're not going to just roll this same group back. We kind of were making fun there of the Lakers roster construction. The Raptors roster construction isn't any better. It's different, but it's not necessarily better. They really only have one guard of note, and that's Fred VanVleet. Everybody else is basically a wing size player or a true big. And there's just not enough minutes. Their bench groupings when they come in are very weird. It's they'll play sometimes 3 or 4 bigs in the same game off the bench, but that's because that's what they have. It's just a whole bunch of bigs. So they've got to rebalance their roster. I don't know if it's going to be one of those things where it's a huge priority in the regular season. They may look up and be like, we're already 5-6 games out of this 6th spot. Are we really going to push all that hard to get there? Let's, reset a little bit now, and then we'll finish the resetting in the summertime. And I know we're going to get into it, but they've got decisions to make with a couple guys. Gary Trent, it sounds like they're likely to move, or open to moving. I guess the comment from our buddy Mark Stein was he's very available. Is what I think it was, regularly made available in trade talks, and makes sense. He's probably going to opt out of his contract, and if Toronto's not interested in retaining him, it's best to move on. But the other guard's the real interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Fred VanVleet, the extension situation with him, I mean, I don't like. There was the report that he had turned down the extension, and then he said, "Well, it's mutual." Is it ever really mutual? Maybe it is. And this, I don't know,
Sure.
but Fred VanVleet, 28 years old, 6'1" guard, and he's good. I like Fred VanVleet a lot, but what do you do if you're the Raptors? Like, how much money are you committing to Fred VanVleet? What's it going to cost to keep him? And then what's your decision making process around that if you say, well, where this price tag is going for him, we're not comfortable with?
Yeah, and it's what the extension amount, the max he could get in an extension right now is about 114 million over 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and that is if he opts out of his player option, signs the extension right now, he can add 4 years on at 114 million. That is basically 28 and a half million, right? Am I doing that math right? I think so.
Yeah.
Per season, so that turns into, all right, well, that's not bad necessarily, but just and I get it. That's immediate sticker shock is like, whoa, nearly 30 million a year for Fred VanVleet. But you got to look at what he makes now. He makes almost 20 now. We're moving into years coming up where
Sure.
the cap's going to be going up. But my question would be, Fred VanVleet misses time lately. He's missed a lot of time in the last couple of seasons. He's a smaller guard. He's no longer the kind of 23-year-old undrafted darling. He's moving on a little bit in his career now. Well, what do we got? But man, I don't even have an idea how old he is, and that's bad on me.
He's
28.
He's 28 right now. He'll be
Yeah.
29 February 25th.
So
33% from three this
yeah.
season, which is a career low for him on 8.8 attempts. That's a lot.
No, it definitely is. So yeah, so when you start to get to those, start putting all that together, that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily feel great about almost 30 million a year, 28 million. If you could get 4 years, 100 million for Fred VanVleet, all right, probably stay fine and move on. I think he's probably pretty close to the equivalent of Jalen Brunson as far as a player goes and production goes. A little bit older, but similarly sized guys, both produce at a pretty high level. So I wouldn't feel terrible about that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I want to lock in for 4 years, nearly 30 million for a guy who's going to be 29 here in just another month or so, and then not playing all that great, miss time. I don't know, but we'll see. It's definitely one of those ones that I've got my eye on for sure.
Should he's got a player option at the end of this season. If they can't come to terms in an extension, is he opting out?
I think so. I think what he'll do is opt out, if nothing else, to add a couple years to a
Yeah,
deal with
that's what I
Toronto.
was thinking. 22.8 million, just to clarify,
Mhm.
is his player option for next season, which is
Yeah.
about the dollar amount we're talking here.
Yeah.
But you want to add, if you're a 28, 29-year-old player, you want to add the longevity, the years onto it.
And because we're grown-ups and not idiots, we also know his agent will have an idea if he's got a free agent market or not.
What?
As one of these teams would, yeah, shocking, right?
No.
Yeah, never happen. But he'll have an idea by then if all right, hey, maybe Orlando gets involved, or San Antonio, or one of these cap space teams is interested in throwing some money at Fred VanVleet. And then if that's the case, then there they go. So I'm very much got my eyes on this one with him.
Let's jump over to the Dallas Mavericks. The Cavs have some interest in Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, Tim Hardaway Jr., 19.6 million this season, but then his contract is declining. Has 2 more years under contract, but it declines 17.9 million the season after in 2023-2024, and then 16.2 million after that. He's 30 years old currently, going to be turning 31 in March. Does this make sense if you're a target for the Cavs? I know Tim Hardaway, and most of the discussions I've had around him have been, well, even with the declining salary, do you want that contract on the books as he's getting into his 30s? And he's shooting 36% from three this season, which isn't terrible. It's not like he's a bad player, but most teams would prefer to have more flexibility. But for a team like the Cavs that's ready to go try to win right now, do you like this player as a target?
I I do. It a lot depends on what is the cost to go get
There's a
him.
little bit of hesitation in your voice there.
Yeah, it's just he's not the knockdown shooter that I think
Hmm.
sometimes people think he is. A couple of years
Yeah.
ago, he was. He had a couple straight, almost 40% 3 point
Yes.
shooting seasons. Dipped big time last year in an injury filled season. This year, he's really started to shoot it well since he's gone back into the starting five. I assume he'd get just as good a looks playing with Cleveland and playing off Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell as he does with Luca. So that's good. He can hold his own at the three. He's big enough to defend most threes. So that gives him a little something there. I like him. It's where my hesitation comes in is what are you giving up to get him?
Yeah.
Because they're already out of first round pick, likely that'll go this year, I believe, to the Pacers. So then you turn that into all right, so you're going to be out that pick. Am I giving up a future pick and like Karis LeVert for Tim Hardaway Jr.? I don't know about that. If it was just LeVert for Hardaway, like straight up, and that's the easiest salary match in the world, because
Yeah.
you could literally just do that, then yeah, I'm probably all over that. If I could do it for less by all right, let's stack together a couple deals like Chetty Osman and maybe a couple other guys, then all right, then I'm even more interested. But as it stands, I like the fit. I don't know that I'm gonna like the cost to probably acquire
He can be a bad shot maker,
him.
and that's an important thing to have. Now, you already kind of have, like, Donovan Mitchell can certainly do that. Darius Garland can do that. I mean, a guy who can take and knock down a very tough shot late in a shot clock, but he's got enough other things that he can do where the
Mm-hmm.
fit may make sense. Again,
Good
question.
off ball guy too, right?
Exactly.
Can
Yeah.
play off ball. He's got a lot of experience with that, playing with Luca and Dinwiddie, so that works out. So yeah, then it becomes I like the fit probably a bit better than I like the Karis LeVert fit, but at times Karis LeVert's kind of their bench engine for the
Yeah.
Cavs, so you kind of lose that because you don't necessarily have that. But Rubio will be coming back. He can be the guy who can kind of make your bench groups run. I imagine by the time you get to the playoffs, you're going to play very few minutes without Garland and Mitchell on the floor at the same time. You'll probably always have one of the two. So yeah, at that point, I really like the fit of Hardaway better. It just comes down to, all right, what am I paying? And I don't care too much about the next couple years cost because they're going to be a pretty expensive team anyway,
Mhm.
assuming they keep everybody and then they re-sign Kevin Love to a reasonable deal and those kind of things. I don't know that I want to give up, a bunch of stuff plus draft picks and leave myself with, all right, well, this is kind of what we have, and now we get to rebuild our depth on the fly. I'm not sure I'm necessarily there for Cleveland.
So what about the Mavs side? I mean, it's not like they've got cap space coming up this summer or anything like that. They could have cap space in a couple of seasons, but this is a team that needs to surround Luca with talent right now. What are the Mavs doing here, moving Tim Hardaway Jr.? What does this do for them aside from potentially you free up more cap space for 2024, 2025 when you could be a buyer based on the way their numbers are lined up right now? You could be a buyer on the market at that point, but it's not like this would provide you with immediate relief. And otherwise, are you just kind of shuffling deck chairs? Like if you go get Karis LeVert and you swap out Tim Hardaway Jr., like does that make sense for them?
Yeah, probably not. My guess is that it's exactly what you called out, though. It's about getting those last couple of
Yeah.
years off your salary sheet, and then you kind of look at it and say, "All right, we've got Reggie Bullock. He has not played great for Dallas, but he can eat up some of the Hardaway minutes. LeVert can kind of do his thing in there and gives us just another big ball handler that we can play in lineups with Luca and with Dinwiddie, and just we'll always have a creator on the floor with one of those three guys for the rest of the season as we make our run, and then we clean up our books a little bit long term. That would be my guess is where they would be looking at. But again, you have a pretty good plan because let's say you re-sign Christian Wood.
That's
All right,
the
you're going to be probably capped out for the next couple of years. So I'm not so sure moving money off your books is all that paramount, especially when Hardaway has proven over the last few seasons to be a pretty good fit alongside Luka when he's healthy.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is what message do you send to Luca if hey you're making moves to have cap space in 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Yeah,
he's ready to win and ready
yeah.
to win right now.
When he's going into the final year of his contract, right? In 2 seasons, or I guess 3 seasons, he'll be going in that final year. But yeah, you're getting down to it there where it's like, hey, what are we doing here? Yeah, where are we going?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what ultimately the Mavs. The Mavs are kind of in a tough spot in terms of what they're doing with Luka, but that's a longer discussion for
Hmm.
another day. Let's jump to some 10-day signings. Those are a thing now. So we're seeing
Yep.
some 10-day contracts. Let's start with the easy one. Gorgie Jang. See you later. Welcome back. Right? It's
Yeah.
the turnstile. Right? He's right back in with the Spurs. But again, 10-day contracts. I tend to not worry too much about them because it's only a 10-day deal.
Exactly. And the Spurs love him. So they never wanted to let him go in the first place. That was just, all right, someone's got to go. My guess is they probably sat him down and said, hey, we're going to waive you. If nobody claims you off waivers, which was a good bet, we'll bring you right back. And now they'll play the 10-day game with him probably
Mhm.
for a couple of 10 days. And you know what? Honestly, for Gorgie Jang, good for him. He already got his full contract because he was fully guaranteed.
Yep.
Now he gets a couple other contracts on top of it. And then my guess is at some point a rest of the season contract for San Antonio. I did have some people ask, like, wait, how are they able to re-sign him? They just waived him. That's only, I think people get that rule kind of messed up a little bit,
It's only if you
where
trade them.
if you trade the player, then he's waived by the team you traded him to.
Yeah.
You cannot re-sign him. In case where you just straight up waive the guy, yeah, you can re-sign him the next day. It happens somewhat regularly. A couple times a year, we'll see that kind of
Mhm.
thing happen.
Yeah, you could do that as much as you wanted to, really,
Mhm.
and yeah, nothing against that.
Exactly.
Joe Wieskamp is going to land with the Toronto Raptors, who we talked about earlier. What's he bringing there? Is there a chance that he sticks? What are we thinking with this?
Yeah, and I will say this too, because someone will call it out. We got so focused on the pronunciation, we spelled his name wrong. It's with a K.
Oh, it is.
It is, yeah,
It
but that's
is. We were
okay.
so focused. Okay, let me fix that
Yeah,
right now.
when we were going through,
We were
is it
talking. We were
Wieskamp or
talking.
Wieskamp? Yeah,
Pull the
hey,
curtain back. We were going over the pronunciation ahead of the show and talking about how we always mess that up. That I wasn't
yeah,
even paying attention to how I was spelling it.
it's
There
so
you
funny.
go. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, I mean Toronto, they waived. I think it was Justin Champagny. There's two of them. Let me make sure I have the right one. Yeah, they waived Justin from his deal before it became fully guaranteed. So they had a spot. Well, why not? Like I said, I mean their roster construction's kind of messy. They don't really have you know a lot of guys who are just step in and play a role, especially as a shooter, and that's what Wieskamp does. So maybe he can come in and give them a little something and show them something here on this 10-day. But my guess is this is probably 1 or 2 10 days and done, and the Raptors will just keep cycling through until they make a trade.
Yeah. Yep. And there's going to be they're not going to be the only team that's
Yeah.
doing that as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, which again coming up February 9th. PJ Dozier also lands with the Sacramento Kings. He's had some interesting moments, particularly he had some
Mhm.
times in Denver where I looked at him and went, man, he's not a bad player. Now the 3-point shooting leaves something to be desired over the last couple of seasons, but I mean, if you're going to take a flyer on somebody, he's an interesting one at 26 years old to at least give a shot to.
No, yeah, absolutely. And this was a guy, like you said, was really coming along in Denver, was starting to really play well and starting to really kind of earn his place in the league. And then he had a torn ACL, and now he's back to kind of got to figure it out again. And he was playing for Iowa, which is Minnesota's G League team, and looked okay there. He wasn't somebody I talked to that people were necessarily all about, but this is a guy, big guard, good ball handler, but he is 6'6", really play both guard spots. And if he hits shots, be a little bit better off the ball than a lot of other guys as far as the secondary creator and those kind of things. So we'll see, if he sticks in Sacramento, they could use a little bit more size in their backcourt. It's kind of Kevin Herter and then a bunch of guys who are smaller guards. So my guess is this is the Kings. Hey, let's get a look at this guy. Let's see if he looks healthy and can bring a little bit more well-rounded game, because they a lot of specialists on that team.
Right.
Then we can feel pretty good with him moving on. So we'll see. My guess is, again, this is, let's try it, see what it looks like for a couple weeks, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Absolutely. And that's typical with
Yep.
10-day contracts. It's the way teams approach it. And if it works, great. And if not, 10 days from now, we'll bring in somebody else. All right. I think that's everything for today so far. It's been a pretty eventful time. I feel like things are starting to pick up. And it's
Yeah.
making me a little more optimistic about your prediction from last week that in the next week and a half or so, we'd see some type of big move on the trade front in the NBA.
By the end of the week,
Yeah,
you're
feel
gonna
like
get
that's
one.
I feel like it's coming. I feel
Yeah.
like it's coming.
Yeah, somebody always kind of jumps in there. It's somebody asked me on Twitter today when I did the obligatory 1 month till the trade deadline. Somebody's like, "Is
Yeah.
it weird we haven't seen like a big trade yet?" And I was like, "It is a little bit. Each of the last 4 seasons had a relatively meaningful trade happen within the first week or two of the trade season opening up in the middle of December, and we haven't had one yet. So I'm feeling it though. I'm thinking we're getting one within the week."
We're going to speak it into existence. It's
There it
going to
is.
happen. Ideally, it's going to happen while we're recording the show.
That'd be
So
great.
that would be fantastic. That would
Yeah.
be a lot of fun. But
Can get our little drop back.
that's
for
right.
the
That's
trades.
right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I've got it loaded and ready. We just need that news to drop. So come on, let's get the
Yeah, let's
Woj
go.
bomb or the
Yep.
Shams
And
wow
not
or
2
whatever.
minutes after we shut down and we both
Oh,
move
that's the
on
worst.
with our day. That's like that's how it's probably actually gonna go. Is it'll either come then or when we're both headed off to do school pickup.
Especially when it's something that you already covered. So like for today,
Yeah.
if like suddenly the Raptors, we've got Raptors unlikely to do a major sell-off, like 20 minutes from now, the Raptors trade Pascal Siakam or something
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? Like that, it's the
when
worst.
big chunk of the show can just get thrown away.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
Hopefully I didn't just speak that into existence. But in
Well,
any
if
event,
so, we'll be hopping right back on the mics at some point today
that's
to
right.
break it down.
That's right. We will be here covering it for everybody. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. And of course, go check out the podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Until next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.